All right, guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, spread the word about this humble channel that we have here so that we can keep on spreading the words for good New Yorkers like myself in the gun world. So let's talk a little bit about the gun that I'm going to bring up to you right here, and that is the Aerospace Industries. This is the TM9X. Now, this gun's kind of an oddity of guns because it really doesn't do anything great, and at the same time, it's got a little bit weird of a trigger system that most people will not even bother looking at. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to the table. But I did shoot this gun. Of course, as usual, something had to go wrong when I was at the range. I actually had my GoPro with me, and normally what I do is I set up my phone to use, but I decided to use my GoPro. Mistake number one. So my GoPro took a big old garbage dump on me, and unfortunately, I have no footage. No idea it wasn't recording because, of course, when I go into my computer, every recording I had was corrupted. Not sure why that is, but I'm going to take that GoPro and probably smash it against the wall after this video. Now, in regards to the shooting experience of this gun, I'm going to tell you straight up, it was actually pretty good, which is a big surprise. Honestly, guys, I wasn't thinking too much about this gun when I first got it because the trigger is a little strange. You have a double action trigger, and you can see it's pretty long. And it is about a 5.5 pound trigger pull. The reset is short and crisp, but the interesting part about this gun is that if you choose to, let's say, let that reset go, you have that long double action again, unless you control the reset, which shortens it up. So it's an interesting trigger system. Not really sure why this would be designed, especially now, because the modern striker-fired handguns that are out there, none of them really have this. I mean, is it similar to, let's say, a P99, the quick action? I believe it is. I think it's more similar to the quick action than the anti-stress, because the anti-stress, you had that really short trigger pull if you didn't decock the trigger. In this case, that's not the case, but it's a little similar and obviously a lot more different. I think overall, the Aerospace Industries gun, the TM9X, could actually be something that some of you would be interested in, especially when you look at the price point. I looked last night. Some of them are going for $300. Some of them are going for $500. I would not pay a lick over $250 for this gun. I actually bought this gun for $200. That's the only reason why I got it. And to be honest with you, I was interested in it because it kind of looked cool. It had a little look of a Glock to it, but which in my opinion is a lower bore axis. Again, you could see that the gun does sit fairly low in the hand, and I'll show that closer to you on the table. But overall, it's an okay gun. I would say it's about average in regards to the things that you're going to find in other guns that are out there. But really what makes it a competitor is the price point. I mean, fit and finish looks pretty good. Everything looks pretty solid. But at the end of the day, is it better than anything that's out there? Not really. And does it do anything on par with those other firearms? And I'm going to say it really doesn't. So, you know, to me, would I buy the gun? If you can find a steal on this gun, yes. More than likely, I'm going to wind up selling it anyway because I have way too many striker-fired guns that do a much better job in every aspect of gun ownership that I do and have and operate with. But at this end of the day, is it something to look at? It might be. Is it something for you to buy? Well, that's ultimately up to you. But I think it's a decent functioning gun. I don't know if it's going to be for everybody out there, but just keep in mind they do have another trigger system on it. I believe it's called the Spear, if I'm not mistaken. This one's the Dare, but they have the Spear, and that's a little bit more like a standard operating striker-fired gun. No long double action, and then the soft reset, or I should say short reset, or extending it out to the full double action like you see right here. So let's take it to the table. You guys can take a look, and at the end of the video, you guys leave those comments. Let me know what you think. Here we go. All right, guys, and welcome to the table. Here we go. So let's take a little deeper dive into this TM9X Aerospace Industries gun. That's a lot. That's a lot of name for a gun that nobody knows about. But again, this gun, just to give you a little background, this is from Montenegro. It is imported to Jacksonville, Florida, which is then given to all of us the ability to buy from here in the States. So a couple of things that you're going to notice here is that the gun is a pretty basic, generic looking firearm. I mean, there really is nothing special looking about this gun. You can see that they do have some front serrations here and some rear serrations, a little bit different from each other. These are more rounded up front. This is a little bit more straight away. The serrations themselves are actually not bad. They're easy to manipulate. There doesn't seem to be any problem with it. And I will say that the finish on the gun, or at least on the slide, is pretty tactile. I mean, it's not a lot of, when I give you a good example, like the Glocks. When the Glock Gen 5s came out, the slides were very, very slick. I don't know if any of you noticed that, but I certainly did. This doesn't seem to have it. It's got a little bit more of a tactile feel to it, so you have a good grip on the gun whenever you want. And what you guys saw in the previous part of this video was the fact that I showed you the trigger, so I'll kind of give you a closer look to it here. But you can see it is a fairly long trigger pull. It's a pretty heavy trigger pull. It's about 5.5, 6 pounds. This one was coming in around 5.75, 5.5 pounds, around there. But you can see that if you ride the trigger to reset, it is a short reset. Now, does that make it the best trigger in the world? Absolutely not. The trigger is kind of clunky. At least it feels that way when you're dry firing it. Now, unfortunately, I did not have the video to show you the shooting experience, and that kind of irritates me because, you know, I spent a lot of time doing the videos, and unfortunately, I don't have anything to show for it right now. But I will tell you that the shooting experience of this gun was a little bit better than I actually anticipated. And the reason why I'm saying that is because most people will probably dismiss this gun because of the trigger system. Again, it's called their DARE trigger system, gives you that double strike capability. But the one thing I have to say is that when you're shooting the gun, that reset is a lot more manageable when you actually have live ammunition through it. When I was dry firing this gun, I felt like the trigger was very heavy, not necessarily what I was wanting in a gun. But then when you go out and you shoot it, the experience is a little bit different. It just feels a little bit different. It operates a little bit differently when you're shooting with live ammo. And that's definitely something that I've noticed. The magazine quality is pretty good. It looks like a typical Mech-Gar magazine, which is nice. So you're using high-end magazines, which is always helpful. At least I think Mech-Gars are high-end, and I think most of us would say that. I mean, overall, you got a grip length that's about the same as a Glock 17. It actually resembles a Glock 17 quite a bit. I mean, if you look at it quickly, you might even think it's a Glock just without the blocky grip. But other than that, I mean, the gun sits very low in your hand. You guys can see that where my thumb is here, right, and right there. You can see it's a very low bore access there, which actually I think is a plus for this firearm. It really mitigates the recoil. This was shooting very similar to me when I was feeling this gun versus, let's say, the VP9. I felt like they shot very similar in regards to felt recoil. The one thing I can say is that it felt like the recoil was transferring a little harsher into the lower portion of this in the polymer than it was in the VP9. Not sure what that was about. I don't know if maybe this is a little bit more rigid, or maybe it just has a bit of a problem dissipating the energy and the forces being created. But at the same time, it was an enjoyable shooting handgun. It didn't have any problems, no failures that I can recall or even remember, but overall, the gun felt very comfortable in the hands. The texturing on the grip is a bit different. It has like kind of like this honeycomb look to it. You know, is this really anything that's doing anything? It's not. It's just a design, in my opinion. The back and the front on the grip is where you feel most of the bite of your handgun, and that should be that way because that's where you really want to kind of crimp down on that hand a little bit. But at the same time, you know, the biggest question is going to be who's going to buy this gun. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure many of you will. Now, obviously, if I did reviews for only the popular products out there, I'd be like everybody else. And honestly, I like doing things like this because it gives me the opportunity to look at a gun that I may never look at, or that you may never look at, but at least it gives me the experience to shoot it and kind of give you an idea of what I think about it. I think overall the design is kind of interesting. You do have a full-length pick rail, and it's not an ugly looking gun, that's for sure. I'm not sure what sights these are. I would believe these might be Sig Sauer sights, but again, I'm not sure. I have not been able to find any information on that. I think overall, my biggest concern about this particular firearm would be, why would I buy this? And to be honest with you, I don't know. You know, for me, I spent $200. That's it. $200 got me this gun brand new, and it was just something new to try. And I'm kind of glad I did. You know, it's a comfortable gun to shoot. It feels pretty good. Would I say this would be something that I would put in my daily carry rotation? No, it wouldn't be, just because of that trigger system. It's going to take a lot of work to get used to that long double action. And then in a stressful situation, just remembering to ride that, you know, the reset there. If not, it's going to go back to its original point. So for me, I think that's kind of a no-brainer to not want to have this gun for those particular reasons. But for some of you out there who have kind of a liking towards these odd type of firearms, this could be a possible choice for you. Now, there is another trigger system out there called, I believe it's called the Spear. And the Spear system that this one has made for it, which is not this one. This is the DARE system. But the Spear system, I believe, is more like a standard operating striker-fired handgun, where you basically have a very common reset, no issues with this long double action, and then controlling that reset. If not, it goes to double action. I mean, overall, it is a decent gun. Do I really believe that everybody should go out and run and buy this? Well, I mean, if you really want a $200 gun, go for it. Now, I've looked on Gun Broker. I will tell you, I've not found them for 200. I found them for 300, but I had to look back on what I purchased this for, and it actually was 200 bucks. So I believe I was the only person who bid on it, and that's why I got it. But I mean, overall, there are some cool features to it. It is built fairly well. You know, the takedown is a pretty standard takedown. Lock the slide back. You have your takedown lever. Pull the lever down. Now, the only thing I've seen about this firearm is that when I do release the slide, this has a tendency to get caught on the slide, which I don't know why. And I'll see if that does it right now so you guys can see it. Oh, it didn't do it that time. What a surprise. So normally what happens is when you release the slide gets jammed up with this and it pushes it forward a little bit. All you have to do is push it down and it'll release the slide out just like that. You don't have to pull the trigger, so that's a good feature. Also, when we talk about, you know, the basics of the firearm, again, nothing too fancy to see here. It seems like it's, you know, a typical striker fired handgun. You got your captured recoil spring, which is the actual rod is actually steel guide rod. So that's kind of a nice feature as well. The lower, I will say it seems to be built pretty decently. You've got a pretty good amount of steel back here, you know, so it's not a mixture of polymer and steel. It's just all steel here and all steel there. So that's kind of cool. Now, I'm assuming this entire internal is removable because they do, or supposedly we're going to be selling different color lowers. I believe these come in black, gray, green, and brown. Never found one, never seen one. Not that I would invest the money in one right now, but it would be interesting to see if that was a capability of this firearm. Again, I'm not too sure because there's not a lot of information out on these firearms currently. I also have been reading that you could take the trigger bar out and swap it with a Gen 3 Glock trigger bar. Again, it's going to be up to you if you decide to do that. I really am not going to be doing that because I'm pretty much sure I'm not going to be selling this gun before I keep it any further. And the only reason, like I said, is I just have too many striker-fired handguns that are just a little bit better than this. And in some cases, a heck of a lot better than this. But for 200 bucks, why the heck not? So you guys are going to have to decide if this would be a gun that you'd be willing to test out or at least try. And if you have the availability of finding one, if you're worried, you know, want to spend about a couple $100, you know, just be mindful that it may not be a gun you're going to keep, but it gives you the opportunity to have just an experience with a gun that you may not normally have an experience with. Again, it's always up to everybody to decide what's best for themselves. I'm glad I bought the gun because I do think it's kind of a unique gun. I think it is kind of cool. But at the end of the day, you know, I'll move it away and I'll move it on so that I have extra funds come in and be able to replace it with something else. But I hope you guys have a great day. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Leave those comments down below. Have a great day. Stay safe. And as always, everyone, freedom is never free.